You ready to roll? Thank you all so much. Welcome to the Holly. So grateful to have you all here. We are really excited to have you present for today's very special announcement. I want to take the luxury of telling a brief story about this space because for many of us who have gathered here, this is a very important, even sacred space that we have gathered on. As many of you may know, and certainly Senator Coleman knows, this was my office across the street for 10 years. And so this was a neighborhood I worked in and supported every day. And the reason why I first arrived here, I see Herman White in the back. Thank you so much, Coach, for being here. Is may know the story of this site. This site for decades was the home of the Holly Shopping Center, which was the cultural and economic and social center of North Park Hill. And then a little more than 10 years ago, after a gang dispute, this shopping center was firebombed and was burned to the ground. And after it was burned to the ground, this community went through years where this space was empty. There were just chain link fences that surrounded an open wound that was a memory of what the neighborhood had once been, with the hope for what it could be again. And there were a whole set of community leaders, many of them gathered here today, who said, we have a vision for how we could bring this neighborhood back. What we could do to not make it only safe, but to make it vibrant, to make it a place where kids would love to play, where families would love to gather, where neighbors feel at home. And what you see now is the result of those 10 to 15 years of community leadership on this block. What you see now is the historic location of the Center for African American Health behind us. You see the incredible Nancy P. Anschutz Center, which is the Boys and Girls Club. Obviously the library and the rec center and the amazing food you'll get to eat in a little bit from Mississippi Boy Catfish, as well as all of the retail that has come back across the street. What this community has done is worked collaboratively to say public safety is a project that all of us own. It is not something you do just with a badge and a gun. It's not something we just rely on our law enforcement to do. It is something that we as a community do together. And that is what I think the Holly has done, and that is what we think is the spirit that drives today's announcement. And so I want to thank the Boys and Girls Club for hosting us. We're obviously honored to be here and great to be back home again. And I want to talk to some of our all the partners that are here. Today we are announcing the formation for the first time of an Office of Neighborhood Safety. And what that will do is that will bring together all of the operations in the city that help support all the ways in which we can keep communities safe that do not directly involve law enforcement. And so that will be 4 major programs the city has. We will now unify under one leadership. The Office of Neighborhood Safety we are creating in the Office of Social Equity and Innovation, led by Dr. Ben Sanders, who's here today, for 2 reasons. One is, and for many years, these programs have run effectively underneath the Office of Safety and the Manager of Safety. Armando Soldate wanted to be here today, but was ill and could not be with us. But we believe in order for these programs to be most accessible, most community-driven, and most community-accessible, we think they should be built with an eye every day towards equity. And we think our Office of Social Equity and Innovation is the right place to do that. And we think that offers people a front door to these programs. For people that may have different experiences or different concerns about law enforcement, this offers a front door to those services that is a separate and distinct opportunity. And so this will represent a $11 million transfer of resources from the Office of Safety to the Office of Social Equity and Innovation. It will include the movement of about 65 FTEs, 65 employees from the city, who we will now all consolidate into the Office of Social Equity and Innovation for the purpose of running the Office of Neighborhood Safety. And it will have 4 key functions. One is all of the safety youth programs that we used to run through our Office of Safety will now be moved to the Office of Neighborhood Safety. Our Office of Community Violence Solutions, which has been historically successful and active in these neighborhoods along with others, will also be consolidated into our Office of Neighborhood Safety. Our AIDS Center, which is meant to be the no wrong door for folks who need support, whether it might be mental health or addiction treatment or anything else, will also come under the leadership of the Office of Social Equity and Innovation, and the operations of our STAR program. Important to know that the actual day-to-day services and contracting of the STAR program will still run through the Department of Public Health. That will remain in place, but the work around the actual intake and the dispatching of those calls will come through the Office of Social Equity and Innovation. One of the things we've heard in the past is we think we can actually increase the utilization of STAR programming if community members know they can access it without having to go through a traditional 911 or traditional police line. And so our ability to have that first front door be a community-facing, equity-driven organization, we think opens up a whole set of opportunities for the community providers who are doing great work right now with our STAR program. So that is a bit of the focus and the vision for today. That's why we're so excited to launch as a start. I want to introduce right now Dr. Ben, who many of you know has been a community leader in this space for a long time. But I also want to credit in absentia Director Saldate, who is not here. It is a big deal when you're going to take 65 personnel and potentially $11 million out of a department and move it. And Director Saldate has been hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder with our team. And he was the first one to advocate for the idea that this was the right approach, right solution, and he wanted to make it happen. So I think that kind of selfless public service is what got us to this moment, and couldn't be more grateful for Dr. Ben's leadership to step up and say, I will be the one to lead this because we are grateful to have you do it. Dr. Ben.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm excited. Y'all can do better than that. Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Ben Sanders. As has already been said, I'm honored to serve as Denver's Chief Equity Officer. In that capacity, I serve as the Executive Director of the Office of Social Equity and Innovation. At OSEI, we have this idea that if we work hard enough, we can create a city where we cultivate an equitable Denver by working with community to figure out exactly what community needs to make their communities more safer, and then to create targeted solutions based on that information. The vision that drives our work every day is to be a city where race and other social identities no longer predict your life outcomes. It's not true in Denver right now. It can be true through this work and work just like it. And so today marks a historic milestone. We gather here today because, as the mayor has already stated, we're excited to launch the Office of Neighborhood Safety. And as we gather here, we embark on a new chapter in Denver's story, one that champions justice, dismantling the barriers with which we're all too familiar, and working with historically marginalized communities to use what they know to create what they need. And so I'm deeply honored to stand here today as we launch this office. I truly believe it's going to be a beacon of hope and progress in the work that we're trying to drive for the city and county of Denver. In placing the Office of Neighborhood Safety in OSEI, we're saying something very clear. You cannot create a safer city without clear commitments to racial, social, equity, and justice. You cannot create a safer city without clear commitments to racial and social equity and justice. And so I'm proud to stand here today, as has already been said. This venture is not possible without a really courageous partnership between the Department of Safety and our office, the Office of Social Equity and Innovation. For generations, we've lived inside of realities where community has said, why don't we just take some of what's in the Department of Safety already and move it so that it's closer to community so that they can help fix some of what's happening. I'm proud to say today that we are doing that, as the mayor said, to the tune of 65 positions and $11 million, and I think that's worth some applause. 65 full-time positions and $11 million that the Department of Safety is moving from existing operations to the Office of Social Equity and Innovation so that we can collaborate with our neighbors and do so in ways that are transformative. None of this is possible without my friend, my colleague who could not be here today, Armando Saldate. I want to make sure that he is acknowledged for the really courageous ways he leaned into this work and championed it in ways that have not been easy. And so I want to make sure that he's acknowledged here. The other thing that I want to do as I close is I want to make sure that we kind of zoom out and take a full picture of what we're doing here. Standing in a moment where lots of companies, higher educational institutions, and even some governments are pulling away from this work, scared of the work of equity and justice, scared of facing the worst of the past so that we can have a better future. And as we stand squarely in this moment, I'm proud to serve a mayor who not only leaned into this work, but said, let's get it done right away. Mayor Johnson, thank you for leaning into this work, for being the type of leader who, when other folks are stepping back, is stepping forward. This work is for community. It will live in community. I promise you that you will be hearing more from us than you ever thought that you would hear, and I cannot wait to connect with you all. For now, I want to pass the mic and share with one of the incoming leaders of what will be the Office of Neighborhood Safety, my friend, my colleague, the recently minted Dr. Nicole Monroe.
Good afternoon. It is.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, thank you. It is my pleasure and honor to be able to step up here today and to see this come to life. I get to serve as a director for the Office of Community Violence Solutions. And for those who are not familiar, we were formerly the admin team for the Gang Reduction Initiative of Denver, GRID. And so being part of that project, we got to learn the value and the importance of collaborative partnerships. And for us to be able to move forward and for this work to take place, we are going to need each other. I don't know if you're familiar with the term of interdependency, but to where we have to depend on each other, we have to rely on each other, and it is okay. There is value in it. And by coming together, we will be able to have diverse ideas, perspectives, resources, and where we can leverage that and be powerful together. And in doing this work, I'd be remiss to not go with saying the power of a valuable, invaluable stakeholder is community. And through community, we have learned the power that comes from the diverse culture of the Mile High City. With our diverse neighborhoods, there is such richness, such as what we see right now in the neighborhood that we're in right now. So to be able to get to where we need to go, we have to listen to the roots of the community that we're in. There's different culture, there's different values, and we will not be able to do what we need to do without them. And funny story, actually, when I first started this work, and I wish that partner was here, I had an invaluable lesson of what you do not do when you're trying to do community work. And as a privileged government public servant, I came in and she wanted to let me know that I am not about to come in and save them.
That's right.
That I do not have all the ideas, but I do have support and resources to help make it happen. But that is her home that she was protecting, and I respect it so much and learned it very quickly. Thank you, Ms. Diane Cooks, favor. So with that said, to be able to move forward as this healthy ecosystem, you have to rely on everyone. You have to recognize the value that we all bring to the table. Whether you are that active gang member, if you're a grandparent raising your grandchildren, if you are with DPS, if you're with the schools, if you're in law enforcement, fire, wherever you fall on those lines with government, nonprofits, business, you have a role in this. And especially to be able to see our youth, where you want to be able to hear that laughter in the streets and not cries. To where you want to be able to see creative ideas come out in our future doctors and our lawyers, future welders and electricians. We have to be able to create that community, that home for them, to where we can thrive and not just survive. So we're very excited to be part of this. It is definitely a long time overdue to be able to have our organizations come together to begin and to definitely grow. So thank you for the honor and privilege to be part of this today, and I hope you will definitely come with us and you will be hearing more from us, and we are going to need you. So thank you, Mayor Johnson.
All right, we are happy to take some questions, but now that I just had two doctors up here both preaching, I have to just say one more quick story because they totally raised the game. First is, in our excitement, we forgot one very important detail, which is when we talk about this being community-owned, community-led, that means we need your direct involvement and direct feedback. And so one of the things we are launching today is a community advisory board that will directly support, oversee, give feedback to the Office of Neighborhood Safety. And we are looking for folks who want to serve on that board today. So much so that we actually have QR codes around the they're not underneath your seat. This is not Oprah style where there's a car underneath your chair, but there is actually QR codes where you can log in, apply if you're interested right now. If you know a friend or a community leader is interested, there you go. They are actually out in your seats. So please do apply there. The last thing I'll say before we take questions is I remember when we first broke ground on what is now the Center for African American Health. And at that point, this was just the remains of the fire, and it was just a pit with fencing around it. And I told the story that day from my old high school biology class, which is there is a concept in biology called ecological succession, which is what happens when forests grow is they start with a lot of small trees and small shrubs and plants and a lot of wildlife. And as they grow, you get larger trees, and you get aspen trees, and eventually you get very large pine trees that grow so tall they actually cover the canopy of the rest of the forest floor. And now sunlight can't make it down to the forest floor. You don't get any flora or fauna that can survive in there because there aren't enough nutrients or enough small spaces for people for things to survive. And then at those moments, those forests burn. And when those forests burn, what you see as a catastrophe is actually the most fertile moment for any natural environment, because in the wake of that fire comes the ashes that actually allow great new things to grow again. That's what brings back all of the animals, all the life, all of the fauna that then regrow new things. This was a place that was once on fire. And now this community has so deliberately used that as an opportunity to regrow and to rebuild that what you see here is those decades of work from people who saw something different. We know there are little fires like that all over the city from neighborhoods that are struggling. We also know in each one of those moments there is a real opportunity to see growth, to see cultivation, to see possibility. And we know that is what the community providers who are here today have been doing for decades. We think this office gives us a chance to do at scale the way we've never done before. So thank you so much for being here, and I am happy to take any questions if we have them, except from Senator Coleman, who is not allowed to answer any questions or ask them. And also, the other one rule I had was don't speak long before lunch, and there is hot food there, so I will also not keep you that long. But go right ahead. Questions?
Hey there.
Gabrielle, yes.
Yep, Gabrielle from Fox 31. Just had a couple of questions about the Community Advisory Board, about how many members are you looking for that board, and how long are applications being taken?
Thank you very much for that question. So we're still working on the framework of the Community Advisory Board, in part because we want to work with community in building it. And so we envision size-wise about 12 to 15 folks. It'll be an appointed advisory board, appointed through a combination of the mayor and city council. And it's really important that we're casting a wide net. And so the QR code that's being circulated today is an opportunity for anyone interested to express that interest. I would encourage you all to pass that QR code around. You can also find it on OSCI's website, its city website, and you can find that right at the top of our page. But we're thinking of about 12 to 15 people, an appointed board that's going to really help drive and inform the mission and sort of content of this office's work.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. So this is a significant amount of resources. I'm curious what metrics you're going to be using to measure success, to tweak the program, and then if you could get a little bit more specific about what these folks are actually going to be doing, the 65, that would be helpful.
Yeah, thank you very much. This is a great question. So metrics of success are, one, they exist right now on kind of both sides of the independent operations. In OSCI, we have metrics of success that we use to help agencies enhance equity in all their policies, their programs, their budgets. And I know that right now, all of the programs that we're moving over from the Department of Safety have internal metrics that they use to assess the success of their work. What we've got, what we're launching today is we want everybody to know that this office is coming. We're really excited to start tomorrow is an 8 to 12 week process of integrating these sort of existing measurements of success from both sides of the office so that we've got a really clear sense of what this office is now that it exists in the Office of Social Equity and Innovation and not in the Department of Safety as these resources have before. And so some of what that means is we're going to have a really incredible opportunity working with our Director of Data and Evaluation at OSCI, Zach McDade, to create really clear metrics based on some of the things we already know to be true about the city, but also in working more closely with community because of the resources that are coming to us from the Department of Safety. I mean, when you talk about the Office of Community Violence Solutions, safety youth programs, the AIDS Center, and the component of the STAR program that's moving over to OSCI, you've got an incredible slate of tools of folks who are doing everything from sort of internal operations to help the city run better to community outreach and engagement to make sure we're hearing from community, right? And so much of that work will be continued. I think you can probably expect some significant rebranding again as this work moves from the Department of Safety to the Office of Social Equity and Innovation. But we'll have very clear metrics that we'll build with community, and we'll measure those metrics over time in ways that are public-facing so that community can hold us accountable for what we're doing with this $11 million.
Hi there, Joe Rubino, Denver Post. As you may have heard, there is a competing, I guess would be the word, event happening at the Blair Caldwell Library with the Task Force for Reimagining Policing. What can you say about that, and how do you kind of collaborate with people that might view this as with suspicion or even competition?
Yeah. Well, I would say first and foremost that I don't view the good work that task force and those community members are doing as competition. I mean, raise your hand if you think you can have too many folks work focused on neighborhood safety, right? I mean, from my perspective, we're willing to work with anyone, including that outstanding task force and the work that they're trying to advance, who want to move forward the work of neighborhood safety, right? To me, I mean, the prerequisites are easy. You care about the people being most negatively impacted. You're more invested in advancing the work than you are in advancing yourself. And you want to come to a table of folks who feel the same way. So we're willing to work with anyone, across the city. That's why I've got so many folks here this morning who want to plug in and really advance this work.
Brandon Richard with Denver 7. Mayor, I have a question for you, sort of tied to that. Those task force members on the Reimagining Police Force or Reimagining Policing Task Force have accused you personally of co-opting them by moving forward with your own initiative, even though they announced back in February their own community-led initiative. So what's your response to that, and why are you just now making this announcement? Why not do this back in the fall?
Sure. So first is we have had good conversations and good feedback with those stakeholders as well as others around the city. I think this is an idea whose time has come. The city has been working on it and thinking about it for years. There are folks inside and outside that have both been working on it. We do think this requires central city-based leadership. We do think we need to have a city agency that leads it and oversees it and that coordinates efforts inside and outside the city. So we think there needs to be a city-based response. I agree with Dr. Ben. We're obviously open to partnering with anyone in the community that wants to do work on this, and we anticipate that partnership continuing. As you can imagine, moving 65 FTE and $11 million out of the Department of Safety is a significant proposal. It takes real time, it takes real planning, it takes thoughtfulness on how we design which of those units, what moves and what doesn't. And so that's taken some time for us to get right, to find the right partner in OSEI, and to work with the safety and them together. So I think we've been at this idea since the beginning of the administration, and we've been in talks with community members about that progress. It took just finding the right place and the right partners and the right budget to be able to make that all happen. And we've been at that for about 3 to 4 months very diligently. Anybody else?
Is there media?
Yeah, we can do 1 or 2 more.
Okay. David Miller with Next Chapter here. We kind of focus on people coming out of prison systems.
Yeah.
So what would be your take on like more resources for those people who are coming out of the prison systems, such as gangbangers and some of the very people who probably burned down the Holly? I wasn't born at that time, but yeah.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate the question. I mean, everything we know about successful work around recidivism is if folks don't have successful, supportive resources and social networks to come back to, we can largely, especially depending on what they were locked up for in the first place, predict how they're going to end up. And so one of the things we want to do in the Office of Neighborhood Safety is plug in with family, plug in with youth in a really broad-reaching way, right? One of the things I appreciate about, for example, the work that Nicole does in OCVS is whenever she's working with young people, she's thinking about parents. And whenever she's working with parents, she's thinking about the young people in their lives, because we have to take a holistic approach to these issues that we're talking about, whether we're talking about recidivism or we're talking about pro-social activities that prevent young people from finding their ways into the criminal justice system in the first place, right? We have to take a holistic approach. We know that. And one of the things I'm super excited about is this constellation of resources at OSEI allows us to do just that. Yeah.
You too.
We have one question here.
For anyone, I know some of you have said this is long overdue. What were the hurdles to get to today?
I can speak to the hurdles that I've sort of run into, and then Mayor, if you want to say anything about your side of the process, you can as well. I think a lot of it has just been sort of trying to create, again, the right constellation for these resources, right? Government is oftentimes good at moving things around, but we wanted to make sure that these resources landed in the right place. We're really confident that the Office of Social Equity and Innovation is the right place. It means, again, that we begin to develop this Office of Neighborhood Safety with an explicit commitment to racial and social equity in ways that, again, are already plugged into existing resources. One of the major pluses for putting the Office of Neighborhood Safety with our office is that what we do already is we work with every agency in the city to improve their programs, their policies, and their budgets around equity, right? And so that means that we can plug this Office of Neighborhood Safety into an existing citywide network of agencies. That was a major plus for Armando thinking that OSEI was the right place for this to go. So if we identify issues in the community and folks don't need more police, but they need more lighting, we can call Dottie, right? If folks don't need more police, but they need more pro-social activities for youth, we can work with the Office of Children Affairs to look at what programming and options exist. And so I think a lot of it was about getting the right resources in the right place. And it took us some time to do that because there are other options in a city as large as Denver. But I'm very confident that at the end of the day, we landed in the absolute best place to drive this work forward.
We have one more question. Oh, Mayor.
Just one quick addition to that. I think two things that are important about this. One is this is an $11 million transfer of city resources without a budget impact. It does not increase the city budget. It does not increase costs. It does not create new city infrastructure. So we want to be mindful about both how we could build this new office and how we could do it while still being mindful of using our resources effectively. We got real clear community feedback that they wanted it not to be housed in the Department of Safety. And so we started looking for where the right place might be. The option was to create an entirely new office, which would have had new overhead, new costs, we think new complexity, or find an office that is deeply aligned with the right team and the right personnel to execute it. And that became clearer and clearer for us that the Office of Social Equity and Innovation was that office. It both has that vision, has that leadership, and has that capacity to think internally and externally about how equity influences every decision we make, every program we run, every service we offer. And so that was the collaboration that got us to this right solution, and that's what took, I think I've been talking about this since as long as the campaign, probably a year ago. And so it was an idea we thought we wanted to get done. We just had to figure out the right partners, the right place, the right time, and the right budget.
One last question.
Yes.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Herman White with the Park Hill Pirates. I stand here with a great sense of gratitude for the leadership that I see in front of me today. We in community understand who is here for us, who has had an impact on us, and who has always had an open door. So Dr. Monroe, Dr. Sanders, as well as Mayor Johnson, thank you very much.
Thank you, Herman.
All right. In regards to resources and supports, Dr. Monroe, you talked about working with community and empowering community to be the change that they want to see and that they deserve. What type of resources and support will this office provide to community members like myself?
Thank you for your question, and very good to see you today. I'm so glad you're here. With the office coming together, and actually to kind of even tag on to some of the hurdles that we've seen before, very similar to the GRID project, an issue that we had was all the different programs and projects that existed around the city was very fragmented. And so having to try and help coordinate the approaches so that they can force more to apply together. We're looking to hopefully being able to, and recognizing this work, it's actually picking up across the nation to where you are seeing the valuable impact that at the community level, at boots of the ground, has on actually driving the work forward. So being able to have that recognition, there's resources nationwide, and it comes all the way down to at the local level to where we'll be able to, while that's all housed under one umbrella, to be able to go after that money as part of the role that we have, and then be able to partner with community to where we can get that money into the streets where they need to be to have that. So you'll be able to have some real intentional RFPs coming in the future of how we can better collaborate. And then also in bringing those resources together, we can also hear from you as far as what's even needed and really involving in that co-creation process. So not as much available now to share, but as we're building, that is something that we're definitely going to be very intentional about making sure. Thank you.
All right. Any important and hard work starts with breaking bread together, so let's all go eat. So stay. Both the doctors will be here to answer more questions. I'll be here. You probably know community members you want to check in with, but we wanted to have this as be an intentional time, not just to launch this, but to actually re-engage in the fellowship that makes communities succeed and that makes these programs work is our ability to be connected to those folks that are doing the work and leading the work. So thank you for being here. Come grab some food. We'll be around to talk more. We appreciate you all taking the time.